$3.3 trillion in transactions.
And amazingly, that exact place that, quote, plane hit was where all the computers were stored for what Rumsfeld talked about.
I used to think that it was crazy before I started researching all of this. But what if it was possible? What if what you've been told was not the truth? Or maybe it was full of half-truths? Would it be the first time that someone lied to you? Would it be the first time that your government lied to you? It's easy for me to say that, especially when you may be thinking the opposite. But no matter what, I'm the one making these claims, so I need to present more information to show how all of the pieces could fit. So please just stay with me here, because we've barely touched the first layer of how odd and bizarre things may really be. Okay, Earth is what we're going to get into right now. We're going to focus on the place that you and I both live and exist. First off, what does the Bible say about Earth? Let's look at the first book of the Bible and see how the story of creation begins. In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form, and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. So that said earth came into existence on the first day of creation. Except the God of the Bible withheld the creation of the sun, moon, and stars until the fourth day, which is revealed inside Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. So the way that I read that is that earth is unique, and it holds center stage inside God's creation. But whether you are a Christian or not, isn't it at least possible that earth could be the center and heart of everything? But whether you believe that earth is the heart or not, it turns out that it's really hard to get good photos of earth. And obviously, we have to go to outer space to get photos of earth itself. This is an article at the White House, A New Blue Marble, July 20th, 2015. NASA releases its new blue marble photo, first such photo since 1972. No one on this planet had ever seen a whole picture of the Earth until 1972. And you can see it's also at medium, and that's where I'm going to go to now to look at that because it has a cleaner layout. You can see it's the same deal by Scott Kelly, NASA astronaut. No one on this planet had ever seen a whole picture of the Earth until 1972. Then you get the blue marble. This is a photo of it. It was the first full photo of Earth taken on December 7th, 1972. And that was the Apollo 17 spacecraft that took that. You got another photo here. Looks a little different. Okay, you got another image. Another image. So why is the blue marble a bigger deal than these? Turns out it's quite tricky to take a good photo of the entire Earth. The planet is big, and there's a lot of lighting issues. As a result of these challenges, NASA, NOAA, and other science agencies most often rely on composite images to depict our planet. These images stitch together multiple high-resolution snapshots taken by satellites already in orbit to produce one seamless portrait of the Earth. And that's what the three photos above are, composite images, produced by NASA over the past 15 years, released respectively in 2002, 2007, and 2012. Composite imaging is an extremely useful tool for helping people understand the Earth, like this black marble, which, by stitching together multiple views of the planet, shows a full global view of the Earth's city lights. That's why today I am excited to see that NASA has released its new blue marble, the first of many more to come later this year. The blue marble is the first fully illuminated snapshot of the Earth captured by the Discover satellite. It looks like it's a joint NASA, NOAA, and U.S. Air Force mission. And there's a guy who's famous for doing these composite images and manipulating data and putting it all together. And this is the guy right here. This is from NASA's website. It's an interview. Data visualizer and designer Robert Simon. And they ask him, what do you do? And what is most interesting about your role here at Goddard? How do you help support Goddard's mission? And he says, My role is to make imagery from Earth sciences data. I turn data into pictures. I look for new, interesting events that NASA satellites have seen or that are hidden in the latest data to find anything interesting that shows off NASA's unique capabilities. Finding things is the fun part. I rely on engineers and scientists to produce the data. Okay, they ask him, what is the coolest thing you've ever done as part of your job at Goddard? And he says, the last time anyone took a photograph from above low Earth orbit that showed an entire hemisphere, one side of a globe, was in 1972 during Apollo 17. He also says by 2002, we finally had enough data to make a snapshot of the entire Earth. So we did. The hard part was creating a flat map of the Earth's surface with 4 months of satellite data. Rito Stockley, now at the Swiss Federal Office of Meteorology and Climatology, did much of this work. Then we wrapped the flat map around a ball. My part was integrating the surface, clouds, and oceans to match people's expectations of how Earth looks from space. That became the famous blue marble.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Space, the final frontier.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. I carry a madness everywhere I go. Over the border, and back to the snow. So if you see me, and I look right through, you shouldn't take it as a reflection on you. Come on, turn up the sound, turn it up for everyone. Love one another, love one another. The boys in the bubble, they wanna be free, and they got so blind that they cannot see. But I'm not your keeper, I don't have your key. I got a piano, I can't find the sea.
You know how the so-called elite love a play on words when they call them astronauts because they've never been in space. That's why they're called astronauts. This is how the elite love to mock all those that believe that somehow these phonies can get into space. What exactly do rockets push against in the vacuum of space? Rockets never been in space. Period. When you see a rocket launch, you always see it go at an angle towards the ocean. All it does is crash back into the ocean. You'll never see that full footage. That's why you see the Kennedy Space Center, for example, right next to the ocean. Exactly like you see in this image here, with this huge arch. Again, nothing more than a rocket that launches and comes back down to Earth. And there are plenty of images of this on Google Images. You can take a look for yourself. I'm not going to show them all here. And someone asked, what about the shuttle landings? I saw it on TV. Very easy to explain. It's just like watching a movie where pieces are edited together. When it's time for the supposed return of the space shuttle from outer space, all they do is have a so-called space shuttle, which is nothing more than an airplane, come in for a landing, as shown on TV. And I'll demonstrate that again for the new viewers. And just for reference, for anybody that hasn't seen my previous videos exposing the space shuttles being nothing more than airplanes, let's first take a look at these supposed space shuttles. Look at these wings. You think these wings will help this supposedly 80-ton space shuttle come in for a glide landing with no engines? This thing would fall out of the sky like a rock. No way this is a space shuttle. Now, to confirm what NASA even states, this is the text from their website, a glider is a special kind of aircraft that has no engine. The space shuttle flies as a glider during re-entry and landing. During ascent, that's of course the initial flight, thrust is provided by 3 space shuttle main engines at the base of the orbiter and the 2 solid rocket boosters that are joined to the orange external fuel tank. Of course, orange for 33. The solids are jettisoned about 2 minutes into ascent, and the fuel tank is jettisoned as the shuttle enters Earth's orbit. So there are no propellants available to the SSMEs during descent. So make that clear. There's no propellants. Though the engines are still present, the shuttle returns as an unpowered glider. Now before showing the footage, like I stated, this is no space shuttle, this is an airplane, and here is your jet engines. Now let's take a look at this footage with the supposed landing of the space shuttle. Again, nothing but an airplane coming in for a landing at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'm going to play this footage and break it down a bit. Then I'm going to play the footage again uninterrupted. I'll show again, this is nothing more than an airplane. I'm going to also mention here during the playing of the video, there's going to be a plane in the distance. And you're going to tell this is way too far to be the jet engines from that plane. It's clearly from the supposed space shuttle. Take a look and take a close listen. Now first off, look at the elevation that you have here. It's coming in for the landing. No way a glider could be that low and maintain this level throughout if it's a glider. Now here are the engines.
There's a shuttle.
One thing I want to point out, here is a supposed chase plane, which is in the very far distance. Let's take a look and listen at the rest of the landing of this airplane. And also, again, if you think it's this plane in the back, the supposed chaser plane, you are completely deceived, completely deluded, stuck on the lie, and you can't get out of it. Take a look and listen.
Touchdown. There's a shuttle. Touchdown.
Talking about frauds, getting back to Mark Kelly, the astronaut. Here he is with another fraud, Gabriella Giffords. So let's take a look at this image of Gabriella Giffords speaking about gun control. You can clearly see this is not the same woman. This is an actor, an actress taking her spot. Clearly see it's not the same person. Wearing orange, of course, 33 in Freemasonry. Just look at these two here. Two frauds married to each other. Match made in hell. And talking about frauds, let's listen to the rest of Chris Hadfield's interview on BBC where he goofs up. He talks about eventually going to the moon and beyond. It's a little bit over a minute long, almost 2 minutes actually. Take a listen at this fraud, just like Mark Kelly, just like Buzz Aldrin. All of these supposed astronauts are all Freemasons, all liars, deceiving the public. This is what Masonry is all about, deception. Take a listen.
How important is the engineering, the fact that we've learned to build such a large structure in Earth orbit?
It's sort of as if, you know, when a little kid is sailing their sailboat in a pond remotely, at some point that then person starts to sail a sailboat up and down the coast, and then they invent and learn and study and figure out all the things they need to do so that maybe then someday they can actually sail out of sight of land. And the station has been orbiting the Earth as if we're sort of sailing within sight of land as we invent I mean, what do you make the hull out of? How do you navigate? What food do you need? How do you make a toilet that'll work forever? How do you recycle water? How do you recycle the oxygen? It's the main crucible test bed where we've been trying to grind out all the lessons that will eventually let us go to the moon.
Astronauts to the moon. Astronauts to the moon. Astronauts to the moon. Astronauts to the moon.
Now just taking a look at the ball Earth, or the supposed ball Earth, where the axis is 23.4 degrees off being vertical, leads you to 66.6 degrees off horizontal. If you think this is just a coincidence, take a look at this. Earth is supposedly orbiting around the sun and moving at 66,600 miles an hour. Another thing I want to point out here, let's take a look. Now let's take a look at this model with the Earth supposedly orbiting the sun, and of course the moon orbiting Earth. And while this is all taking place, Earth is supposedly rotating. Now let's take a look at this image here of Polaris, the North Star. Take a look at this model here. Now, explain to me, for anybody out there, how is it possible for the North Star or Polaris to remain constant above the supposed North Pole while it's orbiting around the sun? It makes absolutely no sense because it doesn't happen. It does not take place. That's simple. Now let's take a look at this. Like I said, the Earth supposedly spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. Gravity holds on the water, and the water is perfectly still. How is this possible? The Earth is supposedly spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Wouldn't you think the water would fly off? This is not possible. People can't grasp reality because all they have been fed are lies. I showed this image before, Under the Dome by Stephen King. Again, mockery in plain sight, truth in plain sight. Let's look at this space shuttle launch from Cape Canaveral in Florida. As I mentioned before, the reason they have these shuttle launches, or supposed shuttle launches, into space, off the coast, so basically these rockets can land right in the water, right in the ocean. That's what it's all about. And later on, again, you see the supposed space shuttles, which are nothing more than airplanes coming for a landing. It's just like a movie. It's all edited, fit together for the public. Just take a look at this image as well. If you really believe this space shuttle is going to outer space, this is completely ridiculous. Now let's take a look at this image here put together by David from deep inside the rabbit hole. Just look at the flight paths the airlines make people take. You will not see plane crossing from South Africa to Australia. That would be, of course, the shortest route. Here's the flat Earth model. Like he states, there's no shortcuts. And of course, UN logo, the same exact thing. You can go to this one website, which is called Flight Radar 24. And it shows all this flight activity worldwide. Interesting enough, you see all these planes flying all over the place. Understand, the so-called northern hemisphere, with the flat Earth model, it does not affect flight paths. When you get to the south, that's where everything is stretched out. This is why you don't see these flights. Take a look here. You'll notice you'll never see, if you go to Flight Radar 24, you'll never see flights in the process of crossing from southern South America to South Africa or South Africa to Australia. What I witnessed myself watching it over time is you won't see an actual plane crossing, but right when it reaches land, then all of a sudden it appears on radar. How amazing. I'm talking about how the game is rigged with this matrix and why so many can't see or understand what's taking place. Let's look at some of the deceivers. Of course, the public school system is going to teach, the ball Earth, which is expected when it comes to these so-called Christians, these truth speakers such as Ken Hovind. This is how they control the Matrix. They're going to have him tell you the absolute 100% truth when it comes to evolution, but he's not going to tell you the truth about the flat earth. So many of his presentations, you'll see that globe in plain sight right in front of his desk. He's pointing at it, and again, they're giving you 95% truth when he talks about evolution being a lie. When it comes to the ball earth, he's going to deny it. He's going to deny the earth is flat. He's going to stick to the ball earth theory. This is how they operate. Let's take a look at Ken Hovind. He was a member of the Prophecy Club, nothing but a club of deceivers. I pointed this out before on my previous channel with all the Masonic hand signs. With this one with Dr. Marquis, it just so happens their zip code in Topeka, Kansas starts with 666. Now what are the chances of that? They go out of their way to have the occultic numbers in plain sight. Like I just referenced, 666, 777, the 33, the 911, always in plain sight. And also, with the signs and symbols, the sign of silence, all these supposed oath keepers of keeping secrets. Interesting enough, look at this Canadian astronaut, Chris Hadfield, doing the same sign of silence. More recent news story with David Bowie supposedly passing away. He is part of the rigged game, the matrix that we live in. Now, some might ask, if this is all true, why doesn't the news say so? Why does the news expose this as truth? Understand, people that are awake already realize this. The media is 100% controlled. Some might say, well, what about my preacher? What about my pastor? Why don't they tell me the truth? You see the problem here? All the Masonic hand signs, just like all the rest of the deceivers. These are all Freemasons, all liars. The game is 100% rigged. Just look at John Hagee's hands here, the devil horns. Take a look at this hand sign that he does twice here. Just like Anton LaVey. These are all Satanists. When the Bible states Satan deceives the world, that is very literal, as you can see. So the people that go to church, that attend services, they don't hear their preacher say 9/11 is not what we're told. Sandy Hook was a hoax. What happened in Paris, France is a hoax. This is because all those involved, all of TV is 100% controlled. And again, this is how they control the Matrix.
I've structured my talk today specifically for those of you who are here to try to debunk flat Earth, and we know you're here. Those of you who came here specifically for the purpose of debunking the flat Earth. And so I want to give you 12 helpful hints on how to go about doing so. Thus, I've titled my first part of this lecture, Debunking Flat Earth 101. Now, I should warn you up front, attempting to debunk flat Earth often leads to converting you into becoming a flat earther. So I'm giving you fair warning, especially with the first point that I'm going to present here. Point number one, never forget, we used to be you. All right, fair warning. We all started out as skeptics. Every one of us. This is stupid. This is crazy. This is the 21st century, for crying out loud. Why are we talking about this? This was settled hundreds of years ago, right? How many of you started out that way? Yeah, pretty much everybody, right? We all had the same indoctrination you did. We went to the same schools. We read the same books. We've seen the same movies, television shows, and documentaries. We've all been to the same museums that you've been to. There's no question that you're going to ask that we haven't already asked ourselves. So it's not likely that you're going to stump us with some amazing new piece of evidence that we haven't already thoroughly considered ourselves. Now, I'll just say this. Many, but not all of us, come at this from a biblical perspective. Now, you may hear various presenters here during this conference that are and are not from that perspective. I do come from a biblical worldview, so I will present some things from that perspective, but not everybody's on the same page. So this is not a religious movement, even though many people who come into this understanding quickly realize there must be a creator.
as you can see. I'll float, Mark is floating, and so it really takes a lot of effort to learn how to control that. When I set things down on the ground, you can let it go and it sits there. And so we think, just like at home, you have your lights on the ceiling, so that is up. But then you can do this, like Randy's doing right now. It looks like for him, that he's standing up. So there's really no sense of direction other than maybe the writing on the walls and the lights that we have. Really neat when you're working, you can get in all different kinds of spots and it all seems to work fine. So it's a great place to live and work. When you're working, you can get in all different kinds of spots and it all seems to work fine.
Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
See the hair?
I don't know. We're going to have to do something for you.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Watch this. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Watch this.
Thank you very much. I know we've got limited time. You've got lots to do up there. But I guess you want that special. Lots to do up there. But I guess you want that special. Lots to do up there. But I guess you want to do up there.
What's the most fun for you? I mean, is that it? Is weightlessness it? If somebody asks you what's the most fun?
You know, I think the most fun thing for me, aside from being able just to do something like that whenever you feel like it, is being able to share this experience. And so I try and keep in touch with friends and family through email and using the phone. You know, I think the most fun thing for me, the most fun thing for me
which you designed in a certain way to have it actually, the screen directions flopped, right?
Yes, yeah. It's on wires, but it's all upside down, and then the camera does a sort of rotational move that makes everything else look. It's sort of, we found like even little tricks like flopping images or things like that, or putting a camera upside down or things like that could do a ton, because
really help sell it.
Because the intent actually is to sort of confuse the viewer enough in terms of directionality, because that's sort of what space does. There, they actually aren't on any wires at all. They're just sort of moving, kind of acting like that. But the set has been clocked and turned around, so that it's, again, you're disoriented. You get away with it for just that brief scene, plus with an object floating by, like the film canisters and things. Just
the camera back.
Things like that can hopefully do just enough to help sell it.
Yeah.
Now, taking a look at the supposed Red Bull jump by Felix Baumgartner. This is, again, all about programming. We supposedly live on a spinning ball. This is what it's all about. Let's take a look at this footage. I'm going to break this down. Got the supposed ball Earth showing how it's supposedly spinning here. Okay, now let's continue. Now it's static. What's up with that? Now watch what he does here. Again, like I mentioned before with NASA and the occult. We're doing the devil horns. Let's take a look what he does here. Only for a split second. There you go. Get a closer look on that. And what do you see? You see the devil horns. Again, just like with the NASA footage. Understand, all of these people involved with these productions, that's all they are productions. They are Freemasons. They're part of the game of deceivers. You're not going to be placed or propped up on this platform unless you're part of this club. It's that simple. All these people, of course, are part of the deception as well. I'm going to break down the occult of Roswell, New Mexico. And this is their hoax code on the 33rd parallel. Let's continue more with the video, and I'll get into that. Look at this fat slob getting all excited. This is nothing but a liar, another Freemason in the game. Now what you see here with Felix Baumgartner basically parachuting down. I'm not saying he never jumped from tall buildings and whatnot. All he did pretty much jump out of an airplane. All they do is just like a movie. They edit this all together. You know, just like I mentioned before, with the supposed space shuttle landings in the past. All this is clever editing. It's cut into pieces, just like a movie. Let's continue. I'm going to point out the occult, the supposed family and friends. They're wearing the orange. You're going to see her. I'm going to point out what she's wearing. And as I mentioned earlier with the Felix Baumgartner family and friend photo, what do you see here? All the astronauts wearing orange. And this is the occult of orange. You see here as well with Nazi Germany, the connection. Basically, the orange Fanta drink was created during World War II. And again, it's all about orange. The occult of orange. And you look at these World War II Nazi books, and what do you see? The orange. Everything, there is a backstory behind it. You just have to figure out, you have to understand the occult, and you'll understand what's taking place. And the orange bird from Walt Disney World, just take a look at this logo going back to 1971. See again the orange bird here. Take a look. You'll understand what's taking place. Let's take a look at this numerology calculator and see what orange is all about. And there you go, 33. So understanding the occult, you'll understand what is taking place, what it's all about. These people, these secret societies, they do things based on dates, numbers, colors, signs, and symbols. It's a different language, and the masses are clueless to what's taking place. These people should be ashamed of themselves. Nothing but a club of deceivers. Now again, talking about the family members and friends, let's take a look at this image here. You see here, of course, like I said, this took place in Roswell, New Mexico, in the occult of the supposed alien spaceship crash back in 1947, which is nothing more, again, than a deception. Just another image of the same. You see the alien is being displayed. As I mentioned in previous videos, Roswell, New Mexico, and the occult of 33, which I'll get into right now. The supposed crash again on the 33rd parallel. Out of all the places in the world, it just so happens the highest degree in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is 33. And this is where the first supposed alien space crash landed. Now again, in the occult of Babylon, just so happens to be lined up, going back in time, with Freemasonry and Nimrod and the occult of Babylon and Freemasonry. Like I said in other videos, many times, Nimrod was one of the founders of Freemasonry. Show here in this image, like I showed many times, the Colt of 33.
Crying parents tell their children, if you survive, don't do as we did. The son exclaims there'll be nothing to do till her daughter says she'll be dead with you. While foreign affairs are screwing rotten, light morale has hit rock bottom. Dying embers stand forgotten. Talks of peace were being tried. State your peace tonight. Stand up for. State your peace tonight. Is this the value of our existence?
If you've never seen one of these before, it plays a key role in your internet life. This is what carries your email, videos, and games all around the world. It's an undersea internet cable. It's being made right here in Kitakyushu, Japan, at NEC's OCC factory. OCC makes submarine cables, which carry virtually all internet data across oceans. The cables come in different varieties, including heavily armored ones, but they all start with bundles of optical fibers. The fibers are wrapped in layers for strength, starting with a steel tube, then steel wires and a copper tube, and finally a polyethylene sheath for water resistance. Enormous spinner machines and spools are needed to create the cables. When they're armored, the cables are wrapped in more steel wires and then asphalt and plastic strings. That makes them pretty tough.
Even though single armor is just one layer, this is kind of difficult to bend.
Once manufacturing is complete, the cables are spooled into large tanks and then tested for water resistance and other parameters. The cable system includes large missile-shaped repeaters to boost the signal across the ocean. This 9,000-kilometer-long cable is being created for the Trans-Pacific Faster cable that's backed by Google.
It is a 6-fiber pair system. Each fiber pair will carry 100 wavelengths of 100 gigabits, so the total capacity will be around 60 terabits. That is equivalent to about 1,600 DVDs, which can be transmitted over the ocean in 1 second.
That there are around 1,000 satellites currently in operation around Earth. That there are around 1,000 satellites currently in operation around Earth. Each of these satellites has been put into a specific kind of orbit depending upon its mission. So how does a satellite stay in orbit? So how does a satellite stay in orbit? So how does a satellite stay in orbit? And why are satellites put in different kinds of orbits at different altitudes?
If you're trying to understand the global picture, what's going on in Asia, what's going on in Africa, you need to make those observations. And for that you need a polar orbiting spacecraft, which is an orbit that goes over the poles.
What affects the orbit of satellites?
The Sun-Earth distance changes as the Earth goes around the Sun. So small changes in the gravity field and small changes as the gravity of the Sun affects the spacecraft makes it push slightly out of its observing time orbit.
Constant falling is the thing where satellites are being constantly falling and then being carried out into space, swung around the Earth, and then brought back by gravity. And so this is one of the things that reasons why we believe in satellites and that it's possible. The other reason is because we believe that we live on a ball, and that ball is actually something that is like all the rest of the planets out there, or if you can call them planets. All of the round objects that we see in the sky, we feel like that's where we actually stay. But can I just bring you to reality of God's Word? Actually, God said in the scripture, he said that he was putting the sun and the moon in the sky so that the sun and the moon could warm the earth and then also tell us the times and the seasons in which we live. Now this is quite different because, you know, it makes the sun and the moon to be very close, and it shows us an entirely different kind of world in which the scientists have created for us. Now, if we're going to break out of the dream reality, we really have to come to terms with some of the things that they are actually telling us so we can open our eyes a little bit. Now,
this is what carries your email, videos, and games all around the world. It's an undersea internet cable. It's being made right here in Kitakyushu, Japan, at NEC's OCC factory. OCC makes submarine cables, which carry virtually all internet data across oceans.
now here's another thing I want you to see, is that now that while they're telling you this, they also want you to believe that there are satellites up in the sky, and that all of our communication by our cell phones and all of the data that we receive on our cell phone is actually coming from satellite. It just is not rational to believe that, because if a satellite should actually, if the Earth was really round, and the satellite should actually go on the opposite side of the Earth, then how are you going to maintain connection on your cell phone or your internet?
Orbit is an orbit around the equator where the satellite orbits at the same speed as the Earth. So it has the effect of staying in the same place all the time.
That there are around 1,000 satellites currently in operation around Earth.
Sometimes everyone isn't really everyone. Like when people say everyone's on the internet, because the truth is, for each person that can get online, there are two that can't. And when you look closer, that everyone looks even less like everyone. In some places, it's more like 1 in 1,000. In others, it's 1 in 10,000. And in some places, no one's online at all. But what if there was a way to light up the entire globe and finally make all the world's information accessible to all of the world's people? Well, even though today 1 in 3 kids can't get to a real secondary school, everyone could have secondary school come to them. In places where there aren't enough doctors, everyone could be helped by doctors in other places. Farmers everywhere could start using better weather data, so everyone could enjoy a bigger harvest. And because small businesses that are on the internet grow twice as fast, everyone could create new opportunities for everyone. But how do we bring affordable internet to everyone? Maybe finding an answer starts with looking somewhere new. Like up, and trying something different, like balloons. Yep, that's right, balloons. Because it turns out that if you use balloons, it's faster and easier and cheaper to give everyone the internet than it is to give some people the internet. That's why we're giving it a try, and why there's hope that someday soon, everyone really will mean everyone.
This is what carries your email, videos, and games all around the world. It's an undersea internet cable. It's being made right here in Kitakyushu, Japan, at NEC's OCC factory. OCC makes submarine cables, which carry virtually all internet data across oceans.
Number 7, do at least some research into the founding of JPL, NASA, the Freemasons, Nazis, and all that good stuff, please. When you look into the founding of these organizations and look into like Project Paperclip and 1,600 Nazis being brought over, and they're being, NASA's being ruled primarily by Freemasons, and then you got, meanwhile elsewhere, you got characters like this. Jack Parsons even made a TV series out of the guy, for crying out loud. He was a student of Aleister Crowley, the Beast, the most wicked man of the 20th century, who back in, I believe it was 1917, did ceremonial sex magic rituals called the Amalantra working, and supposedly ripped a veil in the, time-space dimension or whatever, and an entity came through, and he drew the picture of this entity. He called it Lamb. That just so happens to look curiously similar to the modern Greys, alien Greys of pop culture, which about, a few decades later, his student here, Jack Parsons, out there in the desert, I think if I remember right, it was actually in the region that later became known as Area 51. He was out there with L. Ron Hubbard founder of Scientology, doing more ceremonial sex magic, the Babylon working, and shortly after that we have all the UFO lore and everything that came as a result of all of that. So I'm telling you, you need to look into the interesting partners of NASA. And it reminds me of the scriptures, 1 Corinthians 15:33. He says, "Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals." So when you have an organization run by occultists, Freemasons, and Nazis, what do you think the end result's going to be? And they also have some interesting affiliations with people like Arthur C. Clarke and, of course, Stanley Kubrick, which becomes very fascinating when we start looking into the Apollo missions.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, the gathering together of the waters called He seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that that was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens." Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, "Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon." And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about a whole day. Fear before him all the earth. The world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. The Lord reigneth, he is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith he hath girded himself. the world also established that it cannot be moved. Say among the heathen that the Lord reigneth. The world also shall be established that it shall not be moved. He shall judge the people righteously. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. For he looketh to the ends of the earth, and seeth under the whole heaven.
This is a group of social criminals, these people in the space program. Nassholes, I call them.
Space, the final frontier.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating.
Astronauts to the moon.
The Force can have a strong influence on the weak-minded.
Conspiracy theorists. They've been crazy, but now they're right.
But crisis actors, these so-called VIPs.
These are the spectators that were watching.
Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude.
This is raw, unedited video, just sent via satellite.
And right when he says going to throttle up, that's seconds after that, that's when the explosion happens. Now understand, this is very important and key to this follow-up video, is you're going to understand that all the supposed VIPs, they know what just supposedly happened. They heard what happened. They saw the explosion. And way after the fact, you're going to see them still smiling, cracking, smiles with each other, laughing, giggling. And just take a look at how clear it is that these are nothing more than hand-picked crisis actors, and how the supposed family members and VIPs, certain ones are spotlighted, and you can see them clearly smiling and laughing, like I said. It just happened. You hear some people screaming. Okay, you hear them screaming. They know, they've seen the explosion. They know what's going on. So make that crystal clear. When you see them laughing and smiling later on, it's not because you're confused. It's because they're crisis actors and they think the scene's over. They don't know the cameras are still on them. You hear the people screaming in the back. You know, these actors, and again, no confusion of what supposedly is taking place. Nothing more than a large firework that went off with this supposed shuttle explosion. They know it.
The picture you were just seeing is Christy McCullough's parents watching in horror. These are the students.
See the little kid pointing up, smiling.
From her school.
Right here. Another person is smiling. Again, they know they're going to be on camera, but they can't help cracking that smile. You see this smile? You see this look? This is not someone that's in horror of what they just saw. Same with this lady up here. Look at that big smile. This is not from squinting at the sky, like someone claimed in my previous video. This is a smile. Now she goes into acting gear. And this guy here.
Many of them probably had their view blocked just
again,
as we did with the television cameras.
You should get an award.
Huge fireball and a huge cloud of smoke. They may not realize yet what has happened.
Covering up. He's covering up for the people that he's seen on his monitor smiling. You heard the screaming from some of the actors. Some of the actors knew their key, knew what to do. And others, they didn't have a clue of how to act and knowing the camera was spotlighted on them.
You see concern etched on their faces. The breath that they've been holding released. And then the realization
now she's acting.
That something is...
Clearly, a firework.
At that point, all that remained was...
Flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Our director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery.
They're telling everybody, all the crisis actors, you need to get on the buses. Your job is done for the day. Hear that again. Get on the buses.
Our director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery.
On the buses.
What can be done at this point.
Now, everybody is supposedly aware of what took place. The shuttle supposedly exploded with people on board, and now this is where it all starts. Acting. Knowing the camera will be on them. But here's the problem. Here's where the smiling starts again. Clear. No screen-o-matic in the way. This time it's going to be lower, hopefully with this recording. I want to stop at this particular moment, at this still, when these two crisis actors take a look at each other. They know, of course, it's all a hoax. They can't help kind of like give that smile to each other, like a nod, like, you know, we're in on this type of thing. It reminds me completely of Robbie Parker and his supposed wife. Let's take a look at that. Now take a look at this scene. Completely the same exact scenario where, again, Robbie Parker and his wife look at each other and give each other a smile. Like it's all an inside joke.
It will mark 100 days. What has this past 3 months been like for you?
Right here. Look how they kind of smile at each other. She rolls her eyes. He cracks a smile. this is crisis actors at work. And how people can't see this is because they've been blinded. This is on purpose. They allow this. This is pre-taped, and they allow this because those that run this world love to mock. And this is part of it. So, you know, I talk a lot about dupe and delight, but in a lot of cases, I believe the elite want that to take place. It's their form of mocking. It's their form of mockery. With people believing this, let's play it at full motion so you can get a better idea. Just at an instant, only a split second, but these are two actors that basically acknowledging to each other that this is nothing but a joke. Right there. There you go again. Right there. What is this? Robbie Parker's dad? Ha! What a joke.
Edward and Grace Corrigan. They're about
Go back. See, the reason they took the camera off them because they saw them smiling when they shouldn't have. Right there. Looking at each other, smiling, giggling, because they know it was nothing more than a fireworks show. They did not lose their daughter. Bogus. Right there. People can't see this? You're in denial. Period.
Edward and Grace Corrigan.
See, now they're like, they cut away. Oh no, they're smiling too much. We better get the camera off of them.
3.5 miles away from the area of the launch pad, in the VIP launch area.
Now, there's people leaving the scene. But there's going to be groups of people left behind because they are 100% crisis actors, and they're going to be spotlighted with a camera. You're going to see them look directly at the camera. And clear as day, they're being spotlighted as crisis actors. Take a look. Right here. There you go. The overacting. Look at his face. Look at these faces. Bad actors.
Families of the astronauts normally in the grandstand.
Right here. She throws up her arm and it makes a motion like it was an explosion. She knows her cue. She knows what she's doing.
There just seems to be so many questionable circumstances involving NASA. And yeah, this next one, I'm talking about the Space Shuttle Challenger of 1986 that exploded soon after takeoff. And please know that I'm taking this one carefully but seriously, because this one involves life and death. I just believe there are enough intriguing questions about the crew members on that exploding ship to touch on it here. Because 6 of the 7 crew members are considered alive by many people today, because there are 6 people living in the United States who closely resemble 6 original crew members from Challenger. The Challenger's commander was Francis Richard Scobie. Today there's a Richard Scobie who is CEO of a Chicago marketing company. These guys have some eerily similar features, like the same kind of wide-set eyes that both seem to be tilted in their corners. The pilot was Michael J. Smith, and there's another Michael J. Smith living today, a professor, and they seem to look the same. Same smiles, it looks like the same teeth inside those smiles, both have blue eyes, and more. One of the mission specialists was Ronald McNair. It turns out that he has a brother named Carl, who's living today, and they look like they could be twin brothers. Another mission specialist was Ellison Onizuka. He also has a lookalike brother still alive today, and his brother's name is Claude. Another mission specialist was Judith Resnick, and there's a Yale law professor with similar features and identical name living today. And then there was the teacher Sharon Krista McAuliffe. Well, there is a Syracuse professor named Sharon A. McAuliffe who looks a lot like the original crew member with the same first name and last name. Again, I do not take sharing this information lightly, because it is a serious thing when you question if people may have really died. So I don't know about this for sure. I just know that the odds seem pretty crazy that 6 of the 7 crew members have people living today with appropriately similar ages, nearly identical names, and strikingly similar features. And what about the fact that we're now planning to send humans to Mars, and we want to colonize it? So forget about inhabiting the moon, which would be way easier because it's way closer and we've already put people on the moon, but instead let's go inhabit Mars, which is much further away and way harder to get to. So everything I've shared so far, to me it's really bizarre and odd. Much of it doesn't add up, if you ask me, but still, many of you will find explanations. There's a lot of info out there, but based on what my eyes have seen, based on using my own personal logic, even if I wanted to eliminate half of the things I just showed you as untrue, I simply can't explain away the other half as untrue because there is too much that just doesn't make sense in my head.
Hi there. It's about time to do a flat earth, simplified and summarized sort of presentation. Because this is something, it's like a new science that's growing with thousands a day looking at this. I've done a few hundred hours research and 10 to 15 articles on my site. And it's had thousands of viewers and readers and no one can really debunk it. I also said about 7-8 years ago in my first book, which is free, that we're in an information war and in the age of deceit. What I've realised is a lot of people don't really know enough about the mainstream ball earth model. People don't know how fast we spin. They don't know when the moon's coming up, what phase the moon's in. A lot of people don't know what a solstice is. So a lot of people just sort of have this image on the left of the ball earth. This image on the right is starting to gain momentum and a lot of good information backs it up. So I just want to go through some of the key points for anyone new to this information and later do a bit of theorizing and speculation as well. So as Nietzsche once said, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. That's often the case with a lot of new information. Around the 1400s, a lot of people were starting to think about the ball earth due to some astronomers. And then Newton came along in the late 1400s with his gravity book that he didn't really complete. It was very fat and thick. And this man's still taught to this day. He's taught as being an academic scientist, but really he was an occultist, an alchemist and a magician. It's kind of strange how the universities don't teach much about Newton the man, especially when they're hinging massive belief systems upon him. He's also had a lot of links to Freemasonry, which came out of the Knights Templar pretty much in the 1300s. So Newton's a guy that people don't know much about, but they're pinning a lot on him. Now this is the image and the dimensions everyone believes. This is in encyclopedias, schools, universities, and it shows the diameter around 13,000 kilometers. That's a lot of curvature to get through, you know? And what I did, I started researching spherical trigonometry to work out curvature, and I worked out that this is the correct one. Now from the observer, the first mile drops 8 inches, and the second mile drops 32 inches. It gets squared because we live on a ball and not a slope, and it keeps getting squared. Now if this is correct, which everyone thinks it is, then this is correct. So in 100 miles of walking along the earth, one would have dropped 6,666 feet. It's quite a lot of curvature. In 10 miles, one would have dropped 66 feet. One scientist I spoke to said I was wrong, this is wrong, and it's 8 inches per mile. Full stop. And I sent him this and told him he lived on a pyramid and he should really give up science and take up golf or something. Now, curvature is really the main thing, one of the easiest things to grasp with the flat Earth model. What you can see is a lot of people with amateur rockets and amateur balloons are going up, and things look very flat. And in this photo you can see the sun doesn't really look 93 million miles away. Some more horizons looking very flat. The interesting thing here is the horizon is still at eye level. Now, imagine you're a flea on a basketball. It's quite hard to imagine, but try. And you're a jumping flea, and you jump up on top of the basketball. The horizon would go down. It would not stay at eye level. So if the flea jumps like 5 inches up, the horizon's going to drop. This doesn't happen on our Earth. Some more pictures of flat horizon. Of course, these are just images, so you have to do your own research. This is Chicago last week from Lake Michigan. One could see the Chicago skyline from 60 miles away. This isn't possible. It should be below the horizon. Now, a lot of this footage we see from NASA and other people up there, big corporations like Red Bull, they're using a GoPro lens to curve the Earth. Obviously that curvature we see on the picture now isn't really possible at that height. This is just Photoshop garbage. Again, the very strange curvature using the GoPro lens. And we can see with a GoPro lens corrector, everything starts to look flat again. Also, a 100-mile long bridge in China doesn't have any compensation for curvature. Also, when planes fly, they don't really keep dipping the nose down, do they? So it would really fly against the edge of space, into the edge of space. Also, long railways in India, they don't have any engineering for the curvature. Now, a couple of weeks ago, and I did a blog about this on Wakey Wakey, I was in Almeria at the national park, and I went for an early morning stroll, and I could see Algeria. I filmed it, thinking this was a bit odd. I got home and saw it was 95 miles away. And I did some quite simple mathematics and realised it should have been 2 kilometres below the horizon. Okay. Mediterranean Sea. It's probably like 40 miles long, pretty flat. Little boat, hello boat. I don't know if you can see on the horizon, Morocco over there. My finger looks fat because I've zoomed. You can see Morocco. We're in like Almeria. So Morocco's around here, you can see it. We shouldn't be able to see it. Is the world visible? Now, with the Earth spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, one would have thought you could take off in a helicopter, hover for an hour, land at a different space, a few hundred miles away. But what mainstream science tells us is all the air's rotating as well, all the atmosphere. So even if a breeze is going the other direction to the spin, that breeze is still moving 1,000 miles an hour. And if wind moves air molecules a little bit north, a few, 10, 20 miles north, it'll be moving at a different speed. This doesn't really add up and needs a bit of research and contemplation. It just doesn't make sense. Also, when we're young, we're shown this image. There's a lot of molten lava in the middle of the Earth. But no one's ever drilled more than 8 miles down. Humans don't have the technology to do that. So you're looking at something you're never going to see. And that's the power of image. It just goes right into the subconscious. This is quite interesting as well. So the Earth rotates 360 degrees every 24 hours. That's something everyone agrees with in the mainstream model. And that we go around the sun. But if that was the case, 6 months later, we'd be the other side of the sun. And still rotating 360 degrees in 24 hours. Therefore, midday should be dark and midnight should be bright light. This again might need a little bit of thought and contemplation, but it can't really be argued with. Let's have a little look into NASA. Now, they get 8 billion tax a year or so, and they're a government agency linked a lot to Freemasonry and Project Paperclip after World War II. I won't talk about the red serpent tongue there because I'm trying to stay away from too much conspiracy until later on in this. The Ball Earth model is a working model, but it doesn't mean it's true. Children today are getting conditioned early with all these space books. My first book of space travel, Kids in Space, Space Cop Zach. It's kind of sad. They even get the Evolving Darwin playset, because Darwinism, atheism and science are religion, have become a religion. They're being worshipped and they're being thrown into children at a very young age. In my first book 7-8 years ago that's free to download, I did a big section on Darwin the man and exposed things like this, where he said, to suppose that the eye could have been formed by natural selection seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest possible degree. And this image looks like we actually come from sea snot. Yeah, right. And a lot more people are coming out and are exposing Darwinism for what it is. But it all creates atheism. I don't want to get too far into religion, spirituality in this talk, but let's have a look at atheism. The belief there was nothing, and nothing happened to nothing, and then nothing magically exploded for no reason, creating everything, and then a bunch of everything magically rearranged itself for no reason whatsoever into self-replicating bits, which then turn into dinosaurs. I personally have some questions about dinosaurs, but that's not for today. Now we've looked at sort of debunking some of the ball earth, but when we say the word flat earth to someone, this sort of image comes into their mind, or this image. You know? It's nonsense. Oh, what? Where's the edge? You fall off the edge. People have been around the world. Da-da-da-da-da. It's a bit like if someone says the word clock to you, the image from your mum's clock when you were a kid, or the clock at school comes into your mind. It's just what comes out of the subconscious. But the model isn't this. We have the North Pole in the middle. Antarctica is all around the outside. The sun and the moon are pretty much the same size. And the sun moves in an outer spiral and an inner spiral, creating the seasons. Hence, it's always hotter at the equator, what we know as the equator. Magnetic north is always the North Pole, and magnetic south always pushes you out to the Antarctic. Another view of this, simplistic view. This is circumnavigation. You get yourself a little boat, get yourself on the BBC, sail around. Yeah, I went around the world. No, you didn't. You sort of didn't. This is a map of the flat earth. This sort of map will be growing in the coming years. Here's a photo, we're told, from NASA of Antarctica. Another one. I mean, that's not real, is it? I mean, really. And another one. I mean, you see better things in Hollywood, you know. So Antarctica, in the early 1900s, a lot of boats went missing, and some people's instruments went a bit crazy, and they said they followed ice wall for hundreds, if not thousands of miles. This sort of information has been recorded. And if you go to Antarctica now, you'll find the whole area protected and locked down. It's run by the Antarctica Treaty, I think from the 1950s. And you can't fucking breathe there. There are military and there are science operations. This is where the Antarctica Treaty hang out. A bit of an ice wall surrounding the Earth there. A bit of a pyramid with a capstone cut off. Oh, getting a bit conspiratorial now. Better rein it in. So if you really want to go to Antarctica, You can only really go there from these 3 points, and it's completely controlled by a tourist operator, a pyramid system really, that links to the treaty, the countries in the treaty. Now I phoned them up and said, oh, me and my mates are super rich, we're going to go to Antarctica from India and Hawaii. And we got loads of money and we got all the kit, so we'll be there soon. And I got hammered with loads of emails saying, no you don't, where's your permit, fill out these forms, who are you? I mean, this place is locked down, for real. You can go there from these 3 places and you can look at some penguins, take a few photos and off you go. And it'll cost you 10 grand for the luxury. So, you want to fly from Australia to Africa or South America? You'd fly these routes, wouldn't you, on a ball Earth? These routes don't exist. They say because Antarctica's too cold. But you can fly over Canada, Sweden, Siberia. But you can't do these flights because it's not possible. So then you'd think, okay, maybe you can do these flights. These aren't possible either. If you go on the flight sites, you will see these sort of flights you want going through Asia, Dubai, LA, and you end up with flights more like this, that are the shortest way on a flat Earth. But in these flight listings, there are hoax flights. They'll say, oh, direct, South America to South Africa, hugging Antarctica. But you go and try and book it and get back to me. Oh, all the seats are full. This is another key. This is Polaris, the North Star. And with time-lapse photography, you can see that, well, people think the Earth's spinning, but really, in the flat Earth model, it's the stars spinning around a stationary Earth. Now, if we were on a ball Earth going around the sun, 6 months later, we'd be millions and millions of miles away. But you can still take the same photo. What mainstream science says to answer this is that the stars are so far away that our millions and millions of miles movement over 6 months around the sun doesn't register because it's so tiny in comparison. This is a rather convenient answer to something very real we can see with our eyes. Also, most people believe that the sun is 400 times bigger and 400 times further away than the moon, and that an eclipse, where they appear the same size, is just a coincidence, really. This is a bit strange. And the old alchemists always drew pictures with the sun and the moon the same size. Now the moon's an interesting one. I'll try and cover a little bit quickly. The moon does its phases no matter what the Earth and the sun are doing. It doesn't care. It doesn't care for where the Earth is or where the sun is. The moon does its phases. Also, you could be in any part of the world or another part of the world, it will be new moon or full moon. It does what it does. The moon is self-illuminating. It is not reflecting light from the sun. Sunlight is gold, warm, dry, preserving, and decreases combustion in a bonfire. The moon is silver, cool, damp, putrefying, and increases combustion in a bonfire. Animals and plants react very differently to moonlight and sunlight. But the moon is a big study. I'll just leave that there. And with the ancients, they all talked about flat Earth. In Hebrew, in Israel, ancient Israel, Egypt, Maya, Aborigine, India, all around the world. And that's a picture from Egypt of a very ancient goddess, Nuit, from maybe 8,000 BC. We can pick her up. This is Norse mythology. Hinduism. This is Genesis. This calls this the firmament in the Bible in Genesis, but in the Hebrew version it actually says the word dome or ceiling. Quite interesting.
You don't really understand sometimes what a terrible burden it is to know some of the things that I know. And try to wake people up and impart this knowledge to them.
My administration is reclaiming America's heritage as the world's greatest spacefaring nation.
Actually, how was sending those 2 astronauts to the moon supposed to get me reelected? Exactly.
We haven't been to the moon for 50 years.
Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And
thought it would look good.
And in December, I signed a historic directive that will return Americans to the moon for the first time since 1972.
Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And
While you were all whining about climate change and human rights and whales' dicks, this is what we were doing.
Very importantly, I'm hereby directing to establish a Space Force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
May I present you with tomorrow's exploration ship, the USS George W. Bush.
When it comes to defending America, it is not enough to merely have an American presence in space. We must have American dominance.
But against who?
Against everybody!
This time, we will do more than plant our flag and leave our footprints. We will establish a long-term presence.
The moon is American soil. Moon flag, stars and stripes. Who beat the moon Nazis? We did.
And build the foundation for an eventual mission to Mars.
May I present you with tomorrow's exploration ship?
Mars exploration?
American space exploration.
What the hell is the meaning of this?
G'day mates, this is Australian ship Dundee 01, ready to kick ass.
Spitfire reporting in.
This is an outrage. You're all liars, just like my ex-husband. Okay, who didn't arm their spaceships? Oh, great. Great, that's just great.
The world is sick, but we are the doctors.
To free the earth from the miseries of disease.
With hard work, with honesty.
We will face challenges, but we will get the job done.
We are the product of loving mothers.
Mothers and children trapped in poverty.
We are the gift of both God and science.
We will be protected by God.
We are the promise delivered to all mankind.
We will shine for everyone to follow.
For that, we raise our hand to one nation.
America first.
We step to the beat of one drum. We are the people who carry the children on our shoulders, the same way that our fathers carried us and their fathers carried them.
But that is the past, and now we are looking only to the future.
Finally tonight, she's out of this world. The current commander of the International Space Station about to break a big record tonight. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
They call it the Peggy factor, Mission Control's code word for the way superstar astronaut Peggy Whitson always gets the job done.
I love it up here.
Tonight, Commander Whitson making history with her record for any American. By the time she lands in September, her tally will be 666 days.
666 days in space.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah. We chased our pleasures here, dug our treasures there. Or can we still recall the time we cried? Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through to the other side. yes I will. I found an island in your arms, country in your eyes. Arms are changes, eyes are lined. Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through, oh! Oh yeah! Rain to sea, week to week, day to day, hour to hour, day straight, deep and wide. Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through, bring on through, bring on through, bring on through.
As far as these astronauts and this pyramid worship, this capsule is nothing more than a pyramid that they're praying to. All these Masons involved in the game, and the supposed astronaut that was killed during that supposed disaster. Look at this monument they made for her. And of course the pyramid structure in the back. Freemasons that control, that run this world, control NASA, control our entire society. Now taking a look at some images of the supposed astronauts that passed away, that died during the disaster. You can clearly see they're all alive and well.
This is raw, unedited video, just sent via satellite.
And right when he says going to throttle up, that's seconds after that, that's when the explosion happens. Now understand, this is very important and key to this follow-up video, is you're going to understand that all the supposed VIPs, they know what just supposedly happened. They heard what happened. They saw the explosion. And way after the fact, you're going to see them still smiling, cracking, smiles with each other, laughing, giggling. And just take a look at how clear it is that these are nothing more than hand-picked crisis actors, and how the supposed family members and VIPs, certain ones are spotlighted, and you can see them clearly smiling and laughing, like I said. It just happened. You hear some people screaming. Okay, you hear them screaming. They know, they've seen the explosion. They know what's going on. So make that crystal clear. When you see them laughing and smiling later on, it's not because you're confused. It's because they're crisis actors and they think the scene's over. They don't know the cameras are still on them. You hear the people screaming in the back. These actors. And again, no confusion of what supposedly is taking place. Nothing more than a large firework that went off with this supposed shuttle explosion. And they know it.
The picture you were just seeing as Christy McCullough's parents, watching in horror. These are the students.
See, look at pointing up, smiling.
From her school.
Right here. Another person is smiling. Again, they know they're going to be on camera, but they can't help cracking that smile. You see this smile? You see this look? This is not someone that's in horror of what they just saw. Same with this lady up here. Look at that big smile. This is not from squinting at the sky, like someone claimed in my previous video. This is a smile. Now she goes into acting gear. And this guy here.
Many of them probably had their view blocked just
again,
as we did with the television cameras.
You should get an award.
A huge fireball and a huge cloud of smoke. They may not realize yet what has happened.
Covering up. He's covering up for the people that he's seen on his monitor smiling. You heard the screaming from some of the actors. Some of the actors knew their key, knew what to do. And others, they didn't have a clue of how to act, and knowing the camera was spotlighted on them.
You see concern etched on their faces. The breath that they've been holding released. And then the realization
now she's acting.
That something is...
Came apart. When the stage came apart.
Clearly, a firework.
At that point, all that remained was...
Flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery.
They're telling everybody, all the crisis actors, you need to get on the buses. Your job is done for the day. Hear that again. Get on the buses.
Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery
On the
forces to
buses.
see what can be done at this point.
Now, everybody is supposedly aware of what took place. The shuttle supposedly exploded with people on board, and now this is where it all starts. Acting. Knowing the camera will be on them. But here's the problem. Here's where the smiling starts again. Clear. No screen-o-matic in the way this time. It's going to be lower, hopefully, with this recording. I want to stop at this particular moment, at this still, when these two crisis actors take a look at each other. They know, of course, it's all a hoax. They can't help kind of like give that smile to each other, like a nod, like, you know, we're in on this type of thing. Right there. There you go again. Right there. What is this? Robbie Parker's dad? Ha! What a joke.
Edward and Grace Corrigan. They're about
Go back. See, the reason they took the camera off them because they saw them smiling when they shouldn't have. Right there. Looking at each other, smiling, giggling, because they know it was nothing more than a fireworks show. They did not lose their daughter. Bogus. Right there. People can't see this? You're in denial. Period. Again. Robbie Parker's dad. Complete joke.
If I could turn the page and time that I'd rearrange just a day or two. Close my eyes. Then I couldn't find I settled for one day to believe in you. Tell me, tell me, tell me lies. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise. No, you can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Although I'm not making plans, I hope that you understand there's a reason why. Close your eyes. No more broken hearts. We're better off apart. Let's give it a try. Tell me, tell me, tell me lies. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise. No, you can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. If I could turn the page and time that I'd rearrange just a day or two. Close my eyes. I couldn't find a way, so I settled for one day to believe in you. Tell me, tell me, tell me lies. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise. No, you can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise. No, you can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Let's move on here. Number 8, please, I'm begging you, learn what a fisheye lens is and what it does to images. Please. I can't tell you how many videos and pictures people send me, and they're trying to tell me I'm an idiot. You're such an idiot. Look, you'll get it. And they'll put out videos like this.
The Earth is round, and here's the proof. Remember Felix Baumgartner? He jumped from the edge of space a few years back to perform the highest parachute jump ever. Well, that was on a live feed in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and you can clearly see the Earth's curvature. So yes, there is tons of proof that Earth is a sphere.
So yes, there's tons of proof that I'm an idiot.
So, dude, that was Planet New Mexico, for crying out loud. All right? The same curvature was visible 5 feet before his feet hit the ground.
Another interesting find when it comes to the flat Earth here in Sydney, Australia. Taking a look at the harbor. First off, before pointing that out, you see the Sydney Opera House, world famous. And you see Goat Island. I find that pretty interesting. A reference to Freemasonry and Baphomet. Now, taking a look here at Darling Park, let me get a little bit of a close-up. Zoom in here in these 3 buildings. Zoom in here, and they basically look almost like an uncapped pyramid. Very unusual architecture. Now look at what you see here. Let me get a little bit of a close-up and see what we find. Very interesting design and concept. here in Sydney, Australia. Let's get a little bit of a close-up. And what do you see? The flat Earth model. Another close-up here. And you see an obelisk as well. Now, taking a look at this logo for Darling Park, I find it pretty interesting as well. You have the pyramid symbolism. It looks like a peacock. You have these three basically on each side, 3 and 3, 33. Find that very interesting. Everything, there's a reason. Again, they don't pull things out of thin air when they come up with these concepts, with these designs. Now, taking a look at one of the buildings in this complex, Darling Park here. It's kind of obscured here, but also the flat Earth map, and I find it pretty interesting where they situate it. People are passing by, coming down, passing by the world they live on, and they don't realize what's right in front of them. That is the flat Earth model. This is a flat Earth clock, probably the largest one in the world. Taking a look here at this little bit of a side angle here. And also, let's take a look at this short video. Very brief, but you get a general idea of what you see here at Darling Park. You see the flat Earth model, and again, the obelisk itself right in the center, all about the occult. Now, one thing I need to point out, as many people know, the flat Earth model and the UN logo. Now, the connection with Sydney I'll get into right now, which I find pretty interesting. First up, before we even get into that, one thing that needs to be shown is there just so happens to be 33 segments in the UN logo. Now, looking at Sydney itself, it just so happens to be on the third parallel on the south. So you see the connection with the UN, Freemasonry, and the 33, always with the occult. People can't see that we live on a flat Earth with all the videos I have made and many others. And those that own and control this world, these Freemasons, and the number 33, as always in plain sight. This is what they're all about. Everything has always been hidden in plain sight as a form of mockery, specifically with the flat Earth.
Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And
Seriously? Are you serious? Are you serious? Can I have some more coffee?
Now, as far as these astronauts and this pyramid worship, this capsule is nothing more than a pyramid that they're praying to. All these Masons involved in the game. And the supposed astronaut that was killed during that supposed disaster. Look at this monument they made for her. And of course the pyramid structure in the back. Freemasons that control, that run this world, control NASA, control our entire society. More than airplanes. And these images here, and if you truly believe the back hatches of these space shuttles open up in space, this is completely ridiculous. Nothing more than a painting, a CGI effect, nothing real about this. Taking a look at this shuttle being piggybacked. This space shuttle is supposedly 80 tons. on top of this plane. Look how flimsy. All this weight is going to be held up by this little metal piece in the front here. It's just completely ridiculous how people buy this. More than likely, this is nothing more than a prop, completely empty, nowhere near 80 tons. Probably just a couple tons, if that. A very interesting find when it comes to Wernher von Braun, of course a former Nazi, and a huge part of NASA in the deception with the Saturn V rocket program. Just take a look at his tombstone, at his gravesite. And what do you see here? A Bible verse, Psalms 19:1. What does it say? The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Of course, the firmament is conceived in the Bible as a vast, solid dome. Why would NASA's head of rocketry, Wernher von Braun, going back in time, have this on his tombstone? Makes absolutely no sense. Of course, if he knows we live under a firmament, a dome, as a form of mockery, that's why they put this on his tombstone. Taking a look at some images as I shown before, supposed space shuttle launches, and you see this huge arch. Why is that? You would think it would go straight up, go right through the supposed atmosphere to go into space. This makes absolutely no sense. It only makes sense because we live under a dome, a firmament, as the Bible states. Now, taking a look at John F. Kennedy here with Wernher von Braun. I made videos about John F. Kennedy in the past. For all those people that think he's some type of hero, why did he promise that they would send a man to the moon before the end of the decade? If he was a true speaker, he would say, we can't get into space. There is a dome above us. But he's not going to say that. He's basically like an Alex Jones back in the 60s, mixing truth with lies. Understand, the first time he went off course and went against his handlers, he would have been yanked. He wouldn't continue to make speech after speech, supposedly exposing his handlers. I've covered his death hoax in the past. John F. Kennedy. Kennedy is 33 in numerology, by the way. Nothing but a deceiver. You need to understand how far the deception goes. The world is a stage. JFK with Wernher von Braun, two puppets in the game. These Masons in the game with Walt Disney and Wernher von Braun, a former Nazi, and then NASA head. And here's your evidence for your belief in the blue marble and planets outside of Earth's atmosphere, supposedly. To give you the first image of the supposed planet we live on. And what do? They put sex written in the clouds. People might say, well, you know, I've seen animal shapes and people's faces in the clouds, but you're not going to see letters, especially lined up in the clouds. I mean, if you have an S here, an E here, an X there, that'd be one thing. But what are the chances of sex being spelt out all together in a group? I mean, XES, ESX, but SEX all lined up? Give me a break. And with the supposed image of Pluto provided from NASA, and of course, I'm providing a link, the URL here, from space.com. This is an official supposed photo of Pluto. And what do you have? The planet Pluto and Pluto the dog from Disney. His face carved out in this image. All part of mockery by those that run this world, that to those that believe the lies. And for all the coincidence theorists out there that look at this and see how it just so happens to fit Pluto's face from Disney. You don't see the connection with Disney and NASA? How they're all working together? The sex symbolism here with Disney as well. Again, with Werner von Braun and Disney. Two Masons in the game. These two have passed away, but they're carrying on the tradition with the mocking of the masses. And interesting enough, China supposedly landed on the moon back in 2013. It was barely covered by the mainstream media because it was so fake, it was so ridiculous. That's why if you talk to an average citizen that believes in the moon landing back in 1969, and you talk to them about this Chinese moon landing, they never heard about it. There's a good reason. Take a look at this footage. All you get is CGI effects. Nothing real about this, but people just lap it up. Now, what's filming this lunar lander from this aspect? What's filming it? Obviously all CGI, all fake garbage passed off to the masses, and they just lap it up. They're all clapping, watching a CGI video, a horrible one at that, and the masses again lap it up. This is your evidence that they landed on the moon. This is your evidence that they can get past God's firmament. Now listen here. After supposedly successfully laying that probe on the moon, what do you hear? You're going to hear a lot of laughing. In a real life situation, you're going to hear people happy, but not laughing like it's a big joke. This is mockery. These people from China's space know this is all fake. And this is just like duping delight. They're laughing over this because they know it's nothing but a big joke. Talking about mockery, just take a look at this company, Orion Telescope Center, located in Cupertino, California. Take a look at their company logo, and what do you see? Basically the dome with the flat earth. These people know the earth is flat. They are just profiting. Those gullible people that just believe all the lies of science. When the foundation is a lie, everything else after is a lie as well. Here's a closer look at the storefront. Right in front of your face. And here's the dome above the flat earth. What a complete joke.
Number 4. Ferdinand Magellan, and many people afterwards, circumnavigated the Earth. That means he left headed west, continued going west, and came back to where he started, still going west. Actually, Magellan was dead, but one of his ships, led by Juan Sebastian Elcano, finished the journey.
Yeah, this is one that comes up a lot. Oh, people have circumnavigated the world going east or west. Well, so what? That's if north is your center on a disc, I mean, you're navigating the same way either way. So let's say you're on a ball and you want to go east. Well, you keep the compass heading north, 90 degrees off to your left, and you start walking. If you want to go west, you keep it 90 degrees off to your right, and you keep walking. You're using the north to determine what is east and west. Well, same thing on a circle. Circumnavigation on a circle is exactly the same as circumnavigation on a ball.
Number 3. The horizon. Ships on the ocean or tall Chicago buildings viewed over Lake Michigan disappear bottom first. And you can see the sunset twice if you watch it lying down and then quickly stand up. The simple fact is, if the Earth were flat, there wouldn't be a horizon beyond which things could disappear. So from across Lake Michigan, you'd be able to see all of Chicago, as well as the Rocky Mountains.
Now, what's interesting about this video is it was done December 28th, 2012. So good 3 years or so before the whole flat Earth thing. But no, you wouldn't be able to see all the way to the Rockies because there exists this crazy thing called our atmosphere. It's quite dense, and so much the more so when compounded over long distances. As for the Chicago skyline being seen from the other side of Lake Michigan, it is very interesting that this picture would show up about 3 years after the Top 10 Proofs video was done. Then, of course, we had the weatherman saying,
and what you're seeing here is a mirage.
So Rick Hummer and I got in a boat and we proved that it was not a mirage, but the actual city. Of course, we had plenty of criticism, though, such as,
at a viewing height of 6 feet, we calculate that 2,166 feet should be below the horizon at 60 miles. So they are right that the entire city of Chicago should be completely hidden. And it is hidden nearly all the time, but sometimes it can be seen from that far away, due to a type of atmospheric light refraction phenomenon called a superior mirage. A superior mirage is caused by colder air below warmer air, which bends the light around the curve of the Earth. This event sometimes makes the news for the very reason that it is a rare occurrence. If the Earth was flat, you could see the buildings on any clear day, not just rarely when the conditions are right for refraction. Flat earthers use these rare events to try to prove the Earth is flat, but that makes no sense. It's called cherry picking. You don't get to pick the anomalies that seem to agree with your views and ignore the common observations that don't, and still call yourself an honest investigator. That is intellectually dishonest.
gotta love the critics. Okay, so I'll show you more about what I think is going on with atmospheric lensing shortly. Until then, let's see who's going to pick and choose what common observations they're going to accept and or ignore. Here's an interesting video I saw online regarding a full day time lapse revealing superior mirages. Now, this is quite extraordinary, actually. This is from skunkbayweather.com, September 7th, 2012. Notice the buildings and the shoreline here over on the left. Keep your eye on that. Just watch that, and the mountain in the background. Everything's pretty cool. You can see pretty much everything there, but as the day progresses, and we are now at 9:30 a.m. and it's 59 degrees, 60 degrees, it's getting warmer, the temperature is changing, we start to see some miraging take place, right? It starts to distort things a little bit. Ooh, look at that. The water seems like it's getting higher, and we're losing buildings, and we're losing the beach. Here it is now, noon, 63 degrees and climbing. Uh-oh, there it goes. Oh, there it is again. Oh, it's all miraged. Huh, it's all distorted. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. The default is to see it, though. That's the point. The default is minus distorting atmospheric conditions, you would be able to see everything clearly. But due to different temperature variations and density in the atmosphere and whatnot, sometimes you can see the whole shoreline and the buildings, sometimes you can't. But the magic trick is not in being able to see it. It's what is taking place that obscures your ability to do so. Look at this. And the mountains in the background shrink and expand and everything too. Look at the comparison right here. The one on the right at 5:44 p.m., 63.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Can't really see anything on the left shoreline there. And on the left at 9:43 a.m., when it was 59 degrees Fahrenheit, we can see the shoreline, we can see buildings, trees, all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, either this is, filling up and draining so that the water level is higher or lower, or it's due to atmospheric lensing and distortions, refraction, and all that good stuff, causing us to not be able to see it at certain times. I think that's exactly what's going on Lake Michigan. And again, based on that imagery that I saw looking 46 miles across versus 0.6 miles across, I really do believe that just like the experts said, the globalist guys, they are the ones that said, hey, the atmosphere really is acting like a lens, and they put a lens in front of the camera to show how it works.
Again, more on this shortly.
Number 2. During a lunar eclipse, the shadow of the Earth on the moon is curved.
The following is from a radio show I did back in 2015, talking about the issue of lunar eclipses. Now, we'll talk about the eclipses in a second, but believe it or not, many people believe that the phases of the moon are also caused by the shape and shadow of the Earth. I mean, I wish I had $1 for every time somebody called me an idiot while claiming that the phases of the moon are caused by the shape of the Earth.
The Earth is not responsible for the phases of the moon, even in the spinning heliocentric NASA-based model. It's not. They say that the phases of the moon are caused by the angles of the sun's light hitting the moon.
And speaking of angles, ever notice on days when the sun and moon are up at the same time, the terminator line on the moon is often quite off from where it should be if it were in fact reflecting the light from the sun.
Okay, now see the sun going down in the west over there, and go this way and up, and there's the moon with the shadow angled this way. So you would think that if the moon is reflecting the light of the sun, that the sun should be shining this way. Problem is, the sun is now way down here. Look at the terminator line of the shadow. You would think the light should be coming directly across from it, but it's not. It's way down there. The angle is totally wrong for that shadow.
So, if the moon is not reflecting light as it should, could the moon actually be exactly as the scriptures say it is? You've got a number of scriptures saying that the moon is a light. It's a lesser light, according to Genesis. And in Isaiah and Ezekiel, it talks about the sun causing her light to shine or giving her light. There's nothing in Scripture that indicates that it's a reflector. And so back to the Griffith Observatory, you would think for the display on lunar phases that you would see a moon going around tidal locked to the Earth such that the same face is always pointing toward the Earth. And as it's rotating around the Earth with the same face always pointing toward the Earth, see how the phases work. I mean, you would think that they would have a display like that, but they didn't. What did they have? They had a self-illuminating moon going around in a circle, creating the moon phases. But, you know, I'm having a hard time with that whole reflector thing, especially when you realize that anytime you have a reflector, it's going to bounce back the same light that is shined on it. And we've found that that is not the case, that the moon gives off a totally different light. The sun gives off warm light or hot light, and the moon gives off a cold light.
So I'm going to set up my whiteboard just like I did before, with it facing toward the direct moonlight. And I'll get my iPhone here to focus up on my thermometer. Okay, let's do a test here. And it's 80.9 degrees in direct moonlight, and shooting underneath here, it's 89.6 degrees in the full moon light.
And in case there are any conspiracy theorists out there, how would you prove to us that you're in zero gravity?
Major Tom.
Now, why are they lying to you? That's the big question. Why would they lie and tell you that we have satellites all over this world? Because they want you to believe that the earth is round. And they want you to believe that the earth has a gravitational pull. And they want you to believe that the earth is rotating around the sun. And they want you to believe that we're in a solar system. And the reason they want you to believe that is because it fits within the narrative of the Big Bang heliocentric model. And the Big Bang heliocentric model says basically this, that people came from nothing. They didn't come from God, they came from a big explosion, and that nothing created everything. And if you believe that, then you are lost. And you are blind to the fact that we have a creator, we have a God who created us for a specific purpose and for his glory. Now, this is why they want you to believe that we have satellites all over the world, when in reality, there are no satellites. Anyway, you let me know what you think about this. Like, subscribe, or don't. But remember, until next time, that Jesus is the light of the world, and the truth shall set you free.